The Kansas City Chiefs just dropped a bombshell that left half the world with their jaws on the floor, and you probably haven't even realized it yet. Today, August 26, 2025, at 6:48 p.m., Kansas City revealed their final 53-man roster for the 2025 season. And man, some of the decisions they made are so controversial, they're going to generate discussion for weeks. Want to know what the most shocking choice was? They decided to release Robert Tonyan, who was the absolute standout of the preseason, leading all Chiefs in receptions and receiving yards. But the madness doesn't stop there, because the Chiefs also cut Mike Pennell, one of the most respected veterans on the defensive line. Get ready, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change your perception of the Chiefs' strategy for this season. Before we dive into the explosive details of these cuts, I need you to do something. Stop everything you're doing and write in the comments where you're watching this from and how many years you've been part of Chiefs Kingdom. This isn't just my curiosity, there's a very specific reason behind this. I bet 90% of Chiefs fans still haven't realized the real magnitude of what our team is doing behind the scenes with these roster decisions. Seriously, most people are only seeing the surface. So if you're part of that 10% who really understand football, prove it to me by writing your city and explaining what was the smartest cut decision Kansas City made today. At quarterback, the Chiefs are going with two options, and there's no surprise here. Patrick Mahomes and Gardner Minshew will be the two quarterbacks moving forward. It's pretty self-explanatory. Minshew might be the best backup the team has had since Mahomes himself in 2017 to 18. The decision not to keep a third quarterback on the active roster reflects Andy Reid's confidence in working with just two QBs, a strategy he's used consistently in recent years. This frees up a precious roster spot that can be used at positions with greater need for depth. Now, where things get interesting is that the Chiefs are carrying four running backs: Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Elijah Mitchell, and Carson Steele. Pacheco is obviously the starter, coming off a season where he added extra weight for his contract year. Hunt returns as the reliable veteran who knows the system. Elijah Mitchell making the team still surprises somewhat, especially considering he didn't show much in the preseason, but his experience might be valued if injuries happen. Carson Steele securing a spot as an undrafted free agent is a completely different story. The guy showed in recent weeks that he deserved to be on the 53-man roster. The decision to keep four running backs when many teams only keep three shows that the Chiefs learned from past season's lessons about the importance of having options when injuries inevitably happen at this high-impact position. At wide receiver, the Chiefs are carrying 7 players: Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Royals, Tyquan Thornton, and Nico Remigio. The decision to keep 7 receivers makes total sense considering Rice could face suspension during the season for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. His case still hasn't been completely resolved, with a disciplinary hearing scheduled for September 30th. Xavier Worthy is entering his second year after an impressive rookie season where he showed flashes of being an explosive threat. Hollywood Brown finally has the chance to play a full, healthy season for the Chiefs after the injury problems that plagued him. Juju Smith-Schuster returns for his second stint in Kansas City, bringing crucial experience and already established chemistry with Mahomes. Jalen Royals, the Chiefs' 4th-round pick, represents the future at the position, while Tyquan Thornton brought elite speed after a frustrating stint in New England. Nico Remigio secured his spot mainly through his special teams value, where he showed he could be explosive as a returner, something that Dave Toub, the special teams coordinator, clearly values highly. The analysis of this receiver configuration reveals an intelligent strategy. The Chiefs are prepared for both the worst-case scenario, long Rice suspension, and the best case, everyone healthy. This depth is crucial when you consider that this group needs to support an offense trying to make history with a three-peat. But man, here comes the first major controversy. The Chiefs released Robert Tonyan, who was simply fantastic throughout the entire preseason. The guy led all Chiefs with 8 receptions for 90 yards and scored one of the team's 2 receiving touchdowns in exhibition games. At 31 years old, Tonyan showed he still had plenty to offer, developing solid chemistry with the quarterbacks and making plays that reminded everyone of his best days in Green Bay when he scored 11 touchdowns in 2020. The decision becomes even more surprising when you consider that Tonyan showed exactly the kind of improvisation and timing that Andy Reid's system values. On multiple occasions in the preseason, he demonstrated the ability to find spaces in coverage when plays broke down, creating windows for his quarterbacks, a skill that's pure gold in Reid's offense. The analysis of this decision is complex and reveals the calculating nature of the Chiefs' front office. As a veteran with 4 4 or more seasons in the NFL, Tonyan isn't subject to the waiver wire. He becomes a free agent immediately. And here's the catch that many didn't pick up on. There's strong speculation that the Chiefs plan to bring him back after making some adjustments to the roster with injured players. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star already made this clear. The Chiefs technically released Robert Tonyan, but he's not subject to waivers, and I'm told the plan is for him to return to the team. This isn't just wishful thinking, it's a well-orchestrated strategic move that shows how Brett Veach thinks several plays ahead. The Chiefs kept only 3 tight ends on the initial roster: Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and Jared Wiley. Kelce obviously is untouchable even at 35 years old. He just got engaged to Taylor Swift and is planning at least 1 more year of his career. Gray had a career season last year and established himself as a reliable option. Wiley is returning from an ACL tear from last season, but showed promise when healthy. The math here is simple. The Chiefs will probably put some injured rookies on the reserve list with designation to return, opening space to bring Tonyan back. It's a maneuver that allows them to keep younger players who would need to pass through the waiver wire while maintaining the option to reacquire a proven veteran. Connecting this to the offensive line, the Chiefs are carrying 9 offensive linemen: Josh Simmons, Kingsley Suamataia, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Jawan Taylor, Jalen Moore, Mike Caliendo, Hunter Nurzad, and Wanya Morris. This configuration tells a fascinating story about the future of Mahomes' protection. Josh Simmons, the first-round pick from Ohio State, is receiving all the praise from Coach Andy Reid. The guy was nearly flawless in the preseason, so much so that Reid commented he's ahead of schedule in his recovery from the knee injury he suffered in college. If Simmons is healthy, he's the week 1 starter at left tackle, a position the Chiefs desperately needed to strengthen. Kingsley Suamataia making the transition from left tackle to left guard is one of this season's biggest storylines. How he adapts to this new position could determine the success of the entire offensive line. Having Jalen Moore as a swing tackle represents tremendous development in depth. The guy can play any position on the line except center. The decision to keep 9 linemen when many teams keep 10 shows confidence in the versatility of the chosen players. Ethan Driscoll will probably go to the non-football injury list after his appendectomy, and Issa Pohl being waived suggests the Chiefs feel they have sufficient depth. Moving to defense, here comes another controversial decision that's making fans question everything. The Chiefs cut Mike Pennell, another respected veteran. The defensive line now features George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Mike Dana, Charles Omenihu, Derek Nanati, Omar Norman Lott, Ashton Galat, Malik Herring, and Jerry Tillery. Pennell was considered by many as the only proven run stopper on the roster besides Chris Jones. His release leaves the Chiefs dangerously thin in the defensive interior if Jones gets hurt. Norman Lott is a rookie with few college reps, and Tillery is more of a rotational body than a real solution. But just like with Tonyan, there's a possibility this is a temporary move. Pennell, being a veteran, can be re-signed quickly if needed. The strategy might be to free up space to keep younger players who need to pass through the waiver wire, then bring the veterans back when convenient. Derek Nottie returning via trade is a classic Brett Veach move, bringing back a known player who understands the system. And Nottie was essentially cut by the Jets, so the Chiefs got him in a late-round pick swap. It's the kind of smart move Veach makes routinely. Felix Anudike-Uzomah's situation perfectly illustrates how injuries can impact roster decisions. The former first-rounder suffered a season-ending hamstring injury, leaving the Chiefs with fewer edge rush options. This forced them to keep players like Malik Herring, who in normal years might not make the cut. At linebacker, they're carrying 6: Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill, Leo Chenal, Jeffrey Bassa, Jack Cochran, and Cooper McDonald. This might be one of the deepest units the Chiefs have had in the Steve Spagnuolo era. The starting trio of Bolton, Tranquill, Chenal is established, but the depth behind them is impressive. Jeffrey Bassa is described as an athletic freak as a 5th-round rookie. The guy has all the physical attributes to be an impactful player, and Spagnuolo has a track record of developing late-round draft linebackers. Jack Cochran is returning from injury, but brings valuable experience when healthy. Cooper McDonald might be the most inspiring story of the cuts. The undrafted free agent impressed so much at training camp and in the preseason that he secured a spot over more experienced players. All 3 backups would be strong special teams contributors, something Dave Tubb always prioritizes. The most delicate and potentially problematic situation might be in the defensive backfield. The Chiefs are carrying 9 players: Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Christian Fulton, Noel Williams, Nazeed Johnson, Jaden Hill, Hicks, Brian Cook, Chris Roland Wallace, and Shamari Connor. With Dion Bush suffering a season-ending Achilles rupture, safety depth was already being tested. The situation became even more complicated with Mike Edwards being cut. Edwards was considered a reliable option, but being a veteran, the Chiefs might be betting they can bring him back to the practice squad as a veteran until the roster settles. Chris Roland Wallace making the roster is probably the biggest positional surprise. The guy played cornerback in college, Arizona and USC before transitioning to safety during the Chiefs' offseason programs. His versatility might have been the deciding factor. He can play both corner and safety as needed. The depth at cornerback seems solid with McDuffie, Watson, and Fulton as the top three, but the options behind them are open questions. Noel Williams and Nazeed Johnson will need to contribute sooner than expected if injuries happen. And then we get to the specialists, where there are no surprises but some concerns. Harrison Butker, Matt Araiza, and James Winchester. Butker missed 4 games last season due to injury, seeing his efficiency drop throughout the season. Now healthy, he's a bounce-back candidate, but age is starting to show. Araiza had an inconsistent performance in his first year with the Chiefs, ranking 15th in EPA among punters according to Puntalytics. For a team that frequently plays tight games, having a reliable punter is crucial. Winchester re-signed for 1 year and $1,650,000 in the offseason, ensuring stability at the long snapper position. Now let's talk about what really matters, the financial and strategic implications behind these decisions. Releasing veterans like Tanyan and Pennell isn't just about football, it's about salary cap management and creating contractual flexibility. Tanyan would have had his salary fully guaranteed if he was on the Week 1 roster, so releasing him now avoids that guarantee while maintaining the option to bring him back. The Chiefs' strategy also considers the waiver wire and how other teams might react. With the lowest waiver wire priority for being AFC champions, any talented player that other teams cut will probably be claimed before Kansas City has a chance. This makes it even more important to keep promising young players who could be lost if waived. The practice squad will be crucial in the coming days. The Chiefs can carry up to 16 players on the practice squad, with up to 6 being allowed to have any amount of league experience. This means veterans like Tanyan, Pennell, and possibly Edwards could end up on the practice squad temporarily. Dave Tube, the special teams coordinator, clearly had a voice in these decisions. Keeping Nico Remigio over more talented receivers like Jason Brownlee shows Tube got his preference. Historically, Tobe has real control over a roster spot or 3 based on his preferences for special teams units. Current injuries also heavily influence these decisions. Jalen Royals and Omar Norman Lott were absent from Tuesday's practice due to injuries, and Coach Andy Reid suggested Royals was furthest from returning. Both will probably be placed on IR with designation to return tomorrow, which would allow the Chiefs to bring back some veterans. Comparing to previous years, this roster shows an evolution in the Chiefs' philosophy. They're prioritizing flexibility over certainty, youth over experience at certain positions, and creating multiple contingencies for different scenarios that might unfold during the season. The pursuit of a historic three-peat is clearly influencing every decision. The Chiefs know they'll be everyone else's #1 target, and that injuries and adversity are inevitable during a 17-game season. Having a roster that can quickly adapt to changing circumstances could be the difference between making history and falling short. Brett Veach once again showed why he's considered one of the league's best general managers. These decisions might seem controversial or even sentimental on the surface, but when you analyze the salary cap implications, waiver wire rules, and specific needs of the Chiefs' system, they start to make much more sense. The next few days will be crucial. The Chiefs have until noon Wednesday to start building their practice squad, and we'll likely see some of the veterans released today return under different contractual configurations. The roster we see now is just the first move in a complex sequence of plays that will probably continue until the start of the regular season. The 2025 season promises to be special, not just for the potential to make history, but for how this roster was built to maximize chances of success. These controversial decisions today might be exactly the kind of smart maneuvering that allows the Chiefs to navigate through a season everyone knows will be brutally difficult. With the season opener against the Los Angeles Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil, scheduled for September 5th, the Chiefs have just over a week to finalize all the details. But based on what we saw today, it seems they have a well-defined plan for how they want to approach this historic season. It remains to be seen if these risky bets will pay off when the lights come on for real.